Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Ever just stop and wonder what makes a modern website tick? How you can click a button and things just happen instantly, or how animations glide across the screen. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the real technical magic that powers the interactive web we all use every day. So let's dive in.
So just think back for a second to the early web. A web page was pretty much just a digital piece of paper. You'd click a link, the whole screen would flash white, and you'd just sit there waiting for a completely new page to load. It was all very static. Now, compare that to today. We've got websites that feel more like super slick applications with instant feedback and smooth animations. The whole experience couldn't be more different. So what on earth changed?
Well, the answer isn't some single magical invention. It's actually a brilliant team of technologies, all working together right inside your web browser. They're the ones creating that dynamic, interactive feeling that we pretty much take for granted now. And this powerful combination, it has a name, and it's really the first big key to understanding the modern web. That team is called Dynamic HTML, or DHTML for short. Now, the really important thing to get here is that DHTML isn't one single programming language. It's more like a toolkit, a collection of technologies all working in concert. Microsoft first introduced this idea way back in 1997 with Internet Explorer 4, and the goal was simple: make websites less static and way more, well, dynamic.
So what's actually in this DHTML toolkit? It really boils down to 3 core ingredients. And the best way to think about it is like building a house. First up, you've got HTML. That's your foundation, your walls, the actual structure of the web page. Then you've got CSS, cascading style sheets. That's all the paint, the furniture, the interior design that makes the house look amazing. And finally, the secret sauce, JavaScript. This is the electricity, the plumbing. It's the stuff that makes things happen when you flip a switch. It brings all the interactivity to light.
And when you put those 3 things together, the result is totally transformative. All of a sudden, developers could create animations, simple games, and apps that give you instant feedback. And because all this code is running right there in your browser on the client's machine, the whole experience just feels so much faster and more user-friendly. No more of that constant click and wait for the server to send a whole new page for every tiny little interaction. Okay, so theory is great, but let's make this a bit more concrete. We're going to walk through a really simple example to see exactly how these pieces work together to do something useful, right in front of you. All right, picture a super simple web page. It's got 2 empty boxes and a button that says Sum. You type 3 in the first box and 4 in the second. Now, the structure of those boxes and that button, that's all HTML. Then you click the Sum button, and that's when JavaScript wakes up. It instantly grabs those 2 numbers, adds them together to get 7, and then uses its power to change the web page, dropping that 7 into a result box. And here is the absolute magic trick. The page never reloaded. There was no white flash, no waiting. It all happened instantly. That is the power of client-side scripting. This quote from the source material really just nails it. The whole power of DHTML is that the scripting language, JavaScript in this case, can change the page's own elements and variables on the fly. It's what creates that feeling of a living, breathing document that's responding to you in real time. Okay, so we get the on-screen magic, but think about it. That calculator example only worked because all the information it needed, the numbers 3 and 4, was already provided by you. What happens when a website needs to get brand new information from somewhere else? Data like your social media feed or the product details on an e-commerce site. For that, we need to look behind the curtain. And this brings us to this second huge concept, the client-server model. This is pretty much the fundamental blueprint of the internet. Your device, your phone, your laptop, that's the client. When you need some information, your browser sends a request out over the internet to a really powerful centralized computer called the server. The server finds whatever you ask for and sends a response right back to your device. It's kind of like ordering at a restaurant. You're the client making a request, and the kitchen is the server that prepares your order and sends it back out. So let's follow one of these requests on its crazy high-speed journey. First, your browser fires off a request using HTTP, which is basically the official language of the web. That request gets packaged up and addressed using TCP/IP, which acts like the Internet's postal service. In a flash, it arrives at the server. The server does its thing, finds the data you need, and sends it hurtling back in an HTTP response. This entire round trip, from your click to the data popping up on your screen, often happens in literally the blink of an eye. Now, for a simple website, maybe a personal vlog, that two-part system, one client, one server, works perfectly fine. But for these massive, complex applications like your online banking or huge e-commerce site, things have to get a lot more sophisticated. You're going to need more than just one chef in the kitchen. And this is what led to the evolution of what we call N-tier architecture. We started with a simple two-tier system, just the client and the server. Then things got a little more complex with 3 tiers, where you'd have the client, a web server to handle the requests, and a completely separate database server that just stores all the data. And from there, it can scale up to N tiers, where N can be any number of specialized servers, each one with a very specific job to do. So here's a quick look at how that might work. The client, that's still your browser. The web server, you can think of that as the front door. But for a really complex task, the request might get passed to a business logic tier. This is the specialist. It's the one that handles stuff like checking if a product is in stock or applying a discount code. Once it figures that out, it then grabs the final info from the data server, whose only job is to store and retrieve information. Splitting up the work like this makes the whole system way more powerful, efficient, and secure. So the big takeaway here is that these huge websites we use every day are powered by a whole team of specialist servers, all working in perfect sync. Each one is an expert at its own little job, and they all work together to handle your request and get you what you need as fast and as safely as possible. It's a huge part of why things like online banking are so incredibly reliable. Okay, so let's bring this all home. What you have are really 2 sides of the same coin that create your entire web experience. On the client side, the stuff happening right in your browser, you have DHTML. That's the on-screen magic that makes a page feel interactive and look beautiful. And then on the server side, you have the client-server architecture. That's the hidden powerhouse, fetching and delivering all the data that actually brings that beautiful page to life. They are 2 totally different systems, but they have to work together perfectly. You know, it's pretty incredible to think that these core ideas, born way back in the late 90s, are still the fundamental building blocks of the web we use every single day. They were an absolute revolution for their time. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. What technologies are being cooked up right now that will become the foundation for the web of tomorrow? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.